Hello, welcome back to Sally's Astrology Book Club. We are talking again about the Luminaries by Howard Sasportas and Liz Green. Now, we talked about Liz Green's lecture last time on the moon. Howard Sasportas, in his lecture on the moon, discussed the aspects to the moon. That when we have certain, we have, the kind of emotional life that we live, that inner life. But then we also find that the moon by sign and house placement is further colored by the aspects that other planets form to it in our natal chart. Mercury, would tell us maybe problems with communicating needs or understanding others' communications regarding needs and emotions. We might have Venus and the moon. One thing he says could be a conflict between what we find beautiful and what we find safe and secure. Mars with the moon could suggest someone who has that urge to bond with others, but yet to break free, that kind of never being able to be totally centered, possibly in an intimate relationship. Jupiter with the moon could mean a kind of a roller coaster, very high expectations emotionally. You set yourself up expecting big things, and then that roller coaster goes down the hill, and things do not work out the way you had hoped. With Saturn, there's a kind of coldness that comes into our lunar life. Maybe a sense of affections and approval being withheld from us. And so that we have to earn it, that we have to be hyper responsible. All of these are, very loose general terms that he describes in his book about the aspects of different planets to the moon. But also, I want to think about a chart of someone who has a heavily aspected moon. And one chart that comes up, someone who's quite frequently in the news, is Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex. And she was married to Prince Harry, of course, and we know that they broke away from the royal family and are now living in California. And so what does her chart tell us about her moon? We see here that she's got the moon in Libra, and it's important in her chart, particularly because she's a Cancer rising. And so it's the ruler of her chart. So you would think, and also the moon is angular in the fourth house. It's very close to her IC, just within about 7 degrees. And so you've got someone whose moon is going to be very important in their life. How they feel about things, how they process things, how they experience the world, how they try to feel secure and safe. And so we've got this moon here. You think, well, a fourth house moon in Libra, very close to the IC. This is somebody who craves a harmonious, peaceful environment, wants strong, loving relationships with family. You could see this kind of ideal that would be with a fourth house Libra moon, that everyone is fair to each other. There's that sense of justice, which is strong with a Libra moon, that you want everyone to be treated fairly and justly. And in fact, we know one thing about Meghan Markle. Before she met Prince Harry, was known as who did a lot of work, humanitarian work, as well as being an actress. She just has that sense of wanting to make the world fair and just for everyone. But of course, we see this Libra moon has lots of aspects to it. She was born at one of those points that happens every 20 years when Jupiter and Saturn come together. And it begins a whole new cycle. In the world in the early 1980s, this was kind of the buildup of, it was the beginning of the Reagan administration in the United States, kind of a buildup of corporate power, especially as Saturn reaches Pluto. It was also a time when we saw some kind of really very difficult, violent acts in the world during this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Libra. There was an attempted assassination on President Reagan, which left him injured, and injured a Secret Service worker, and also James Brady received a permanent brain injury that led to him living a very restricted life. And he and his wife became the inspiration for some gun control legislation called the Brady Bill. So this kind of set off an era of assassinations. Around the same time, there was an attempt to assassinate Pope John Paul II. And then finally, later in the year, Anwar Sadat, who was very active in pursuing peace in the Middle East and was president of Egypt, was gunned down. And so we've got this era when something new is starting, and that the old is being swept away and the new is coming in. Traditionally, astrologers, going back many centuries, would say this is the death of an old king and the birth of a new, or the coming of a prince to power. So all of these archetypes are working very strongly in Meghan Markle's chart, because she's got that very important planet, the moon, applying to that conjunction. So that she's almost unwittingly going to be caught up in this death of the old and the birth of the new around the royal family is almost kind of a fateful thing in her chart. And so if we look at her chart also, though, we see that the moon applying to Saturn suggests some other things, because, like I said, she is someone who, Libra moon, fourth house, will run a very harmonious, peaceful, loving home life, family relationship. And we know that she's not really had that. Her parents divorced when she was 6. Today, she is close with her mother, but is estranged from her father. Also, she's got some estrangements going on with a stepsister. And so there's a lot of pain around that family dynamic in her life. We see also that with the moon with Jupiter there, she does have a close relationship with her mother, but her mother was someone who really encouraged her to break through boundaries. Her mother, Meghan herself, is biracial. Her mother is African American. Her father is white. And so she herself was someone who was kind of breaking through social boundaries. And her mother, you can sense, has taught her in a way that she can expect the very best and expect to be treated well. And so we see that while she's got this very powerful aspect in her chart with Saturn and Jupiter there, it also has created some difficulties, some challenges in her life. And then we find it's almost like the same pattern repeated itself when she married her husband, Prince Harry. She stepped into a very traditional family, very strong on the protocol, very cold. But then she's got this Jupiter sense that all of a sudden she's a mega star in the world, and everyone knows who she is. And so she is dealing with this, the high expectation that came with her marriage to Prince Harry, and then also the difficulty, the challenges that being part of the royal family brought to her. So we can again see that sort of roller coaster that Howard Sasportas talked about with Jupiter and the moon, that you have high expectations. You think, I'm going to marry into this family, I'm going to be part of this, something greater than myself, doing good in the world. And then, of course, once she faces the reality of it, it wasn't at all what she expected it to be, that she was very limited, very circumscribed in what she could do, who she could see, what she could say. And that, of course, led to the break with the family. And so we also see the other aspect in the chart ruling or affecting that moon is a very strong first house Mars in the sign of Cancer, where it struggles. And so this is an important signature in her life, that she's going to fight for herself at Mars' first house, but yet she's going to really struggle to build that sense of security and identity in who she is, that she'll be challenged in that effort. And so that she's trying to be herself after she married and cannot do it. You can see in that square from Mars going to her moon Saturn, and Jupiter, and even widely to Pluto in Libra. And so while she's got a lot of fight in her, she's going to look at or find herself through her home life, through her private life, having battles that she has to fight in order to, again, back to this Libra sense of justice, that she's going to be treated as she believes she should be treated. And so while you can see how this Libra moon then has taken on a lot of different shades away from this kind of ideal living the perfect life that it craves, you can see also the aspects to that moon have told the story of the challenges in Meghan's life, but also her ability to meet those challenges and to develop that kind of inner toughness that is required for her to speak up for herself and build the security that she is looking for. And so in any case, this is a fascinating example of how a moon is shaped and colored by aspects that we find to it. So in any case, thank you very much for joining me, and I look forward to talking with you next time about the sun.